What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with the Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar affecting the markets in Tesla, what the news is saying about the big earnings that just came out, and what the news is saying about Tesla. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with Tesla. Looking at Tesla thus far, we actually saw this thing gap up very nicely, push up very, very nicely, hitting this 195 zone. We're currently retracing just a little bit, but still we're holding up very nicely, and we have a nice uptrend being established on Tesla. So we have this uptrend, which is giving Tesla a lot of hope to push up higher. I'll be breaking down more details about how this is going to likely look like, in my opinion. But for the whole market, including Tesla, we have some big data coming out. The house price report has come out, and things are looking very close to expectations. Everything's aligned with the expectations right now for the house prices year over year, not to mention the current report. But I just want to call out that coming out a little bit later, we have at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 30 minutes after the market opens, the JOLTS job openings report. We want this to be between 8.7 and 8.75 million. Make sure you watch this very carefully and see what this causes for the markets. There's going to be a big move likely at this time. This could cause Tesla in the markets to pump or even dump, so be very careful when this data comes out. We also have the job quits report and the consumer confidence report at the same time. Then after that, at 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed Services Index and the Dallas Fed Services Revenue Index. This is all very minor relative to the JOLTS job openings because that's important for the Fed's policies. So this is the main thing to be watching for. Watch the JOLTS job openings data for December. Watch these employment numbers as they're very important for the Fed. And don't forget, the Fed has excuse me, I apologize. The Fed also has the FOMC meeting tomorrow, so it's going to be very, very important stuff. Now, for some news affecting the markets, the S&P 500 and the Dow hit new all-time highs, which is great for them. GM did very well for earnings. I'll be talking more about that later. Another deal bites the dust as Amazon has terminated its plans to acquire Roomba maker iRobot, and they said that there's no path for regulatory approval for the deal. They also mentioned that the vacuum maker may lay off 31% of its employees. On top of this, Flutter, the parent company of international sportsbook FanDuel, made its debut, and then this is on the New York Stock Exchange. It just came out under ticker FLUT if you're interested in that. And besides that, the Eurozone narrowly avoided a recession in the fourth quarter, according to the flash figures from the European Union Statistics Agency, and that's based off their GDP. It has fallen, but it's just barely above the recessionary territory. So that's very big for the European Union. Now, when it comes to other pieces of news, Pfizer, GM, UPS, JetBlue all had their earnings. And then after the market closes today, we have Microsoft, AMD, and Alphabet also announcing earnings. For a couple of numbers, GM beat on EPS and revenue. Pfizer missed on EPS but beat on revenue. And the others out there have very mixed earnings for UPS and JBLU. Pfizer's guidance was kind of mixed. It's just kind of flat in the pre-market, not the after hours so far. And that's despite the fact that it beats some estimates, but very mixed guidance and such. GM, however, did very, very well. They beat Wall Street's estimates. Forecasts are continuing to be very strong for profits in 2024. And you can see right here, they beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, strong guidance, good profits. Things are looking pretty decent for GM, at least thus far. Now, for Tesla, there's a lot of news coming out that 1 out of every 8 cars sold for the Tesla sold were actually from California, making 21.4% of the EV share, which is pretty big for them as well. California hit a new record with it's getting closer to being all electric, and it's actually one of the top EV places, at least in the US. But one thing I do want to say about California is that they're going to have to work on their infrastructure to handle all these EVs as time goes on. That's something worth noting. Besides that, California is still, leading when it comes to the Tesla sales, and there's some talk right over here about how Toyota is actually number one in California, and Tesla is actually number two in overall sales. So Tesla is still pretty massive in California based off registrations in 2023. This is just making a lot of headlines. So what's good for Tesla is the fact that GM did well for earnings, which is giving Tesla more hope, and their sales are not looking bad. So what do I see for the share price? Now, if we turn back to bearish, or if we just drop a little bit, we want to be watching this support at 194. I think if we lose that, we have a gap to fill down at 192.5 for a small little retracement. But even if it does retrace a bit, that's going to be fine because the trend is still making higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low, and eventually we can push up towards that 200. Tesla also happens to have a gap on the daily to fill. If you guys look at Tesla, there's a gap goes all the way up to like 20, 206, 207. So that shows more upside potential for Tesla. What do I think Tesla's going to do? I think Tesla will eventually come up to 200 over the next couple of days. I also think that it might come down a little bit, could start to fill half this gap and then start pushing back up higher towards 200 later on. Or, excuse me, guys, I apologize. Or it could just start pushing for 200 now. So I see it pushing up. We'll just see if it retraces first before it pushes up or just pushes up to here. For support, watch 192.5 if we lose 194. We have 190 below that, 188 to 187.5. And then we have 184, 182, and 180 as supports. In my opinion, I think Tesla is going to likely either retrace just a little bit, then start pushing up higher towards these higher levels, the high 190s to 200, or it might just start pushing from here and get very close to 200. I'd say that Tesla, in my opinion, is still bullish overall, favoring those bulls. For SPY, we're just barely holding 490 right now. We're actually retracing just a little bit, so we'll be watching this very carefully. But watch and see how it's affected at 10 o'clock a.m. We have a big move coming around that time, and we'll just have to see how things look. Now, at 10 a.m., we'll watch and see if SPY retraces. If we lose 490, we'll be retracing to 489, which is this breakout area right here. Or do we end up just coming down first and then launching up thanks to the JOLTS job openings? If that's the case, we could be looking for a pushback up to 492. It all depends on the data. So watch for volatility at 10 a.m. SPY, in my opinion, is still bullish overall. So even if it does come down just a bit, it still is on an uptrend. This is still making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So it hasn't turned bearish quite yet. And we're going to be watching to see how it reacts to the JOLTS job openings. For the QQQ, we're currently holding 427. If we lose that, our critical support is going to be at 426.1, which is where we got this breakout from. If we lose that, there's 425, 423.8, followed by 422.5 as key supports. Now, if we continue to break down, watch the breakout zone, a nice bounce. If we break 427.25, if we break that, watch 429 and eventually the 430s. In my opinion, the QQQ is looking a little bit weak, could start sinking a little bit more. But the thing is, watch and see what the reaction is at 10 a.m. It could still bounce, in my opinion. So it might come down and then eventually bounce. I find that to be the most likely move. One thing I'm eyeing is in this inverse head and shoulder structure. So if you look at the QQQ, we have a possible right shoulder here. A left shoulder, a head forming, and this could be forming like a right shoulder, and then we start pushing up higher. That's one possibility on the QQQ if this is an inverse head and shoulders. So watch it carefully to see if we retrace a little bit more. We could even just bounce off this breakout area at 426.1. So watch and see how low it goes. It does look like it's going to sink a bit more into the 426s, but it might bounce once all the data comes out. So watch it very carefully. Make sure you're very careful with this, and we'll see how it goes from there. On Nvidia, we're barely holding 627 right now. If we start sinking a little bit lower, we're going to be watching 625. And then below that, we also have 620, 619 basically as the next support. Resistance, we have 630, 632, 636, and 640. Nvidia looks like it might drop a little bit lower, but we'll see if we get a big bounce off 625 or not, if the buyers defend the stock right over there once the data comes out. So watch for a big move at 10 a.m. Let's see if the buyers defend it or not. Finally, for Apple stock, I think it's the same thing. Apple's just shuffling in the 190.5 area. If the data causes a bounce, we could be pushing back up to 192. If not, 189 is coming again. So it's kind of shuffling, kind of stuck at 190.5. Might maintain that for quite some time, but I think that it might try to bounce. So I'm trying to be a little bit optimistic here, and we'll see if that ends up being the case. So that being said, for Tesla, we could retrace a little, excuse me, a little bit on Tesla. We could actually retrace just a bit, but I think that Tesla has a lot of potential to bounce and rebound later on. And I still favor the bulls on Tesla. Watch for volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 30 minutes after market open. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that Tesla tries to hold up. It might retrace a little bit at first, but then start to break to the upside later on. With that being said, thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. Remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.